what in your mind, I mean, we just talked about crisping or whatever the
Yeah.
word that you just used. Is that the most pressing risk today for humanity? Or is there anything else? Just we're starting to get to the conclusion here, but I'm just curious, anything else that's like out there that's really troubling you, that's a big
Yeah.
issue you're
Well, so Toby Ord wrote this book in 2019, where he wrote this book about what he thinks are the four biggest risks to humanity. He says they are climate change, nuclear war,
Mhm.
pandemics, and AI. And just keep in mind, he wrote that in 2019. So
Mhm.
he was pretty much right on. But what he wrote, what I found so fascinating and relevant was that he argues that human civilization, and he's not Jewish. He's an ethicist, a thinker.
Mhm.
He writes human civilization is about 5,000 years old, and he writes humanity as a species could live for many many hundreds of thousands of years potentially. So if you think about it, if that's true, then in the life cycle of humanity, we are currently, let's say, in the adolescent phase, so to speak,
Mhm.
where that's the age at which a human, let's say 12 years old or so, where a human starts to get sort of like the physical maturity and appetite for risk to do all kinds of damage, right? To do horrible things to other people or to get pregnant or do all kinds of things. But they don't yet have the maturity to really make the best decisions that are in their best interest or the best for humanity. And so we set up society to protect adolescents because we have parents and schools and police and laws. But he says, what are we going to do as humanity? If we are now adolescents, so to speak, we now have all kinds of power, but who's telling us, what are the limits? Who's controlling us? Where's our wisdom? And my argument, he doesn't answer the question. My argument is that really that's what the role of the Jewish people is supposed to be. That's what it ultimately
Mhm.
means to be the chosen people. That's what it means to be the Or Lagoyim, right? The light into the nations. That we are supposed to be sharing Jewish wisdom and Jewish insights with humanity. How do we interact with this incredible technology that we have, whether it's AI or CRISPR
Mhm.
or other life prolonging techniques? Because we have to think about these things. They're complicated and they are powerful. And if we don't think about it, we just try to show off our power, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
And do you think we should be getting behind Elon Musk, who is pushing for some regulation when it comes to AI? I mean, it's so interesting. I was listening to an interview, and he seems like such a risk taker and such a bold, kind of mover. Just buys Twitter because he's upset about the way it's going, and like he's trying to make the world run on electric cars. But yet he thinks we're not putting enough regulation on AI. Um, and do you think that is that the role of government? Because a lot of people would argue, this is a moral question, maybe even a religious, spiritual question. I don't want the government telling me what to do or what not to do. If there's a way to crisp out, to gene edit some bad gene, I'm not so concerned with all those ethics. You rabbis are. It's my own personal decision. But don't tell me what to do. Um, how would you react to that? Do you think the government should be involved in that? It's a little of a separation church and
Right.
state kind of question.
Right. The government should be involved, but in totally prohibiting, there's another big risk, which is that when we just say no, we just push people to go other places. So if America
Yeah,
says you can't do it here, it's illegal. So people just go to some islands and then there's no restrictions whatsoever, right? When we push them away, we actually might cause even worse extremes. And so
yeah.
I
That's
think
what
that
happened. By the way, that's what happened with organ donation.
yes,
Even here in the United States, people are tired of waiting on these long lists. So there's a black market for organs,
right.
and then you can have unhealthy surgeries, and without the proper precautions being taken as a result. So that's an
Right.
interesting question.
Right. IVF as well. It was at first prohibited, so people just went elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so like the role of religion, I think, is to provide like kind of that influence, not to force people, but to provide a kind of moral guidance. Like we had a conference here at my hospital about CRISPR, and I actually asked to be put on the agenda to speak. Normally I don't like beg to speak places, but I said I want to give a keynote speech about the ethics and the morals here, because do you have anyone speaking about ethics? You have all these speakers about what we can do with the technology. There needs to be an ethicist at the table, and in my opinion, religious ethicists, right? Religion needs a seat at the table. And so it's crucial because the government can't just forbid everything. That's not necessarily the solution.
But you think the government should forbid some things because left to people's own devices, we have the same area in economics. We know that according to halacha, there is a cap on how much you can charge, how much you can, I think up to like a sixth or something like that of the product. You're not permitted. So Judaism does sort of believe in regulation, but some people, who are, strict Adam Smith capitalists, think it's like socialism to do that.
Right. The challenge is finding the balance. I think there needs to be some kind of government regulations, some guidelines. It just can't be an outright prohibition because then that just leads to, people going around the system. But the challenge is for our wisdom to catch up with our powers, right? So like I do agree that our ability to control the world and to accomplish things with AI as an example has outstripped our wisdom right now. And so we need to catch up.
I'm writing that down, wisdom catching up with our powers. Is it just wisdom though, or is it also really morality? Because listen, Germany before the Second World War, University of Berlin was like the Harvard of Europe. The greatest intellectuals and writers and scientists, Albert Einstein or Soloveitchik, went to Berlin to study. That was like the height of quote unquote technology and wisdom.
Well,
but
maybe intellect. I don't think intellect is the same thing as wisdom. Wisdom is really a deeper understanding and appreciation for humanity and why we do what we do and what's appropriate. And that's why I think religion is so crucial for wisdom. We knowing facts and information is not wisdom, right? Wisdom is much deeper and much more profound.
Right. You're including spiritual guidance and really ethics and morality within that term, within wisdom.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that is a kol hakavod on what you're doing, because we need voices, and we need Jewish voices to be able to express what our unique wisdom is on these issues. And I love what you said before, Jason, that how we have a system, we have passages in the Talmud and wisdom going back thousands of years to reflect God's approach to these life questions. I've always said this, that if it's a question of life or death, we have to go to the creator of life to be able to know how to navigate this and not simply shoot from the hip, which unfortunately happens in hospitals. I've been involved in that myself.
Yeah.
So I congratulate you for devoting your life to this and really synthesizing, a scholarship on bioethics with healthcare and spiritual guidance as a rabbi. So, wow, I can't think of anything more significant and more important to be involved in.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.